Greetings, dear friends, fellow programmers, and those aspiring to be. I have a very delicate question for you, and it's of personal kind. Have you ever found yourself scratching your head, thinking about what exactly are callbacks in JavaScript? Because if you did, for sure you're not alone. I was first person out there who was really confused about callbacks in JavaScript while getting started. So if you are still not 100% clear on this concept, you, my friend, are in the right place. Well, it is one of the core concepts of JavaScript that most people tend to have issues with while getting started, because it's difficult to wrap your head around the concept. They play a crucial role in asynchronous programming in JavaScript, which is basically what is happening when you want to execute stuff at the same time without blocking the main thread. In simple terms, I know that the first explanation was a bit abstract or too difficult to wrap your head around again. This I'm about to share with you is simpler explanation that is how I understand the concept. So, callbacks are basically a functionality of JavaScript that allows us to send a function as a parameter of another function that is being executed, and when you are executing that function, you can execute this parameter function whenever you like, after certain situations are handled or when you get the calculation results for something or whatever. But the main point is you can send a function as a parameter to another function and then execute it whenever you like. This allows us to basically chain events in our code. So you're able to pass function to a certain function and then execute it when certain things have already happened, which allows us to have asynchronous behaviors in our code. You can think of it as ordering a pizza. So you call a pizza place, you make your order, and they promise they will call you as soon as your pizza is ready, and then you basically just sit down and wait for it to be done, and when they call you, then you go there and pick up your pizza. So basically, in that terminology, the call you receive from pizza shop is basically a callback. But still, I think the best way to understand this is through examples. So let us head to our IDE and keep talking about callbacks. What do we have here? We have two fairly simple methods. The first one is say goodbye, which is very simple. It just prints a goodbye message. It does nothing else. And also we have greet function. And this function receives two parameters. The first one being name and the second one being callback. And inside of its implementation, we can see that we are printing a message to a console, which is going to print the name, and then it will invoke the callback. So basically you can see that here we have a parameter which is just callback, and here we have just appended braces to this callback method. And when we are trying to invoke this greet function, we are providing it with a name, which can be anything we like, let's say Alice, and also we are sending the function say goodbye as a callback. So this function right here, say goodbye, is going to be passed as a parameter to greet function. So after this console log was executed, this line right here is going to be equal to us writing say goodbye, because we have passed say goodbye as a parameter to this function with callback name. This will invoke this function right here. So basically, the result we should get when we run this code is going to be logging hello Alice and then logging goodbye. So let's see if this works. And yeah, here we go. We have hello Alice and goodbye. And that is because we passed say goodbye as a callback to greet function and then we executed it from there after we have printed the message. And that, my friend, is exactly how callbacks work. I have to be honest here. This notation was, to me, as a .NET developer when I was getting started with JavaScript, extremely weird, because in C# you cannot do anything remotely similar to this, because to me it's like you're sending a function as a parameter to another function. It makes no sense. But then as you use JavaScript and you learn concepts and you start understanding how things work under the hood, you start adapting to it and you start understanding it, and then it becomes fairly simple to use this functionality to your advantage. So I hope you will stick around for long enough to learn enough about these concepts so you would be at that same point. I mean, after all, that's why we are here. Right? Now, one might say we have covered the basics about callbacks, but there is still a very long way to go. We are still far from done. Let us head to another example where I want to show you something different about callbacks. Alright, let us now use cooking as a reference in our example. So we have three methods that have to be executed one after the other. There is no way for us, it's not allowed, we will break the goal of our application if we execute them in any different order than to first create a starter, then a main course, and then finally a dessert. And when you take a look at all of these three methods, they seem fairly simple. There is nothing spectacularly complex about them. We already learned that callback with braces is going to run the function we provide right here. So all three of these have fairly similar notations, and we are about to see something new in this part right here where we are invoking them. Because here you can see that we are already gaining a suggestion from our IDE that this is a callback. So what we are doing is creating a function inside of which we are just running the next function that needs to be executed. So we are first running make starter because we want to first make it. We have to follow the order, remember? So we are first running make starters, and then as a callback, we are passing make main course inside of a function. And then make main course again expects a callback as a parameter. So we need to send a function that is going to contain a callback to make dessert. And make dessert again requires us to provide a callback, but this time a callback is going to be a function that is just going to print out a console log, all courses are ready. So when I run this, we should get the exact order we were expecting. So make starter, make main course, make dessert, and then all courses are ready. So let us see. Yeah, that's exactly what we got as a result. But what is the issue here is the fact that this code is terrible if you ask me. So basically right here we can see that callbacks are great, but they can also take us to a very dark place called Callback Hell. Of course, if we are not careful enough, which in this example we were not definitely, because we definitely did end up in Callback Hell right here. I want to challenge you to debug this code. And now just imagine having more complex logic in each of these functions. Trying to debug it or understand how it works would really be a hellish scenario. I mean, it would be a living hell to be able to go through all of this and extend it or understand it or do whatever you want with it. Basically, each callback is depending on the previous callback's results, and then everything gets entangled together in a web or a maze, or call it whatever you like, which seems fairly impossible to get a firm grasp on. This is the main reason why callbacks are not so commonly used nowadays. They were ran over by concepts like promises and async await in JavaScript, which are basically just more advanced and easier to navigate, maintain, extend than callbacks. But we will cover those as well, so do not worry about it right now. Of course, there are still certain situations where we do use callbacks, even though they might not be perfect. We still do have certain scenarios where using them is going to bring us a lot of benefits, but in those cases we just need to be aware of potential issues that we do not want to end up in while using them. And we will be golden. We will have no issues whatsoever, because callbacks are great if used properly. So let's make sure we do just that. Now, before we end this video, I would like to use this opportunity to show you a simple way to make the current situation at least a bit more manageable. I mean, it's still going to be far from perfect, but a bit better it will be. So, what is the main difference? We still have the same three functions we had before, but also this time we have wrapped our last final console log into another function, which is going to be called all_done. And now we do basically the same thing as in the previous case, except in the last callback that we have for making a dessert, we will not make a big fuss about things. We will just pass the method all_done as a callback, and it will be executed exactly the same. So we have reduced one level of nesting by including and introducing the concept of named functions. But as I mentioned, still we have way better and smarter ways to do this, to make the code much cleaner and easier to follow, understand, extend, do whatever you like with it. But in this video, we still do not have the basic tools, so just sit tight and wait for the upcoming videos where we will do exactly that. And finally, I would like to squeeze in one last example that is going to be a bit more live-like, so to say, because it's going to be something like us calling multiple API endpoints and chaining them together and waiting for results in order to present something to the user. So what we have here, let me show you, is first function, which is called fetch data, and it receives callback as a parameter. And inside of it, we are just printing fetching data from API 1. We have set timeout, which basically mimics us waiting for a response from this API. And we then run the callback that we received and print the received data message for the function 1. Then for the function 2, which is going to be passed as a callback to function 1, we will do the same thing exactly, but just it's a different API endpoint, let's say. And in order to execute all of this, we need to execute both of these. And then we have the final function, which is called display data, which is going to be passed as a callback to the second API call. So when we try to invoke all this stuff, we invoke fetch data, which is our first API call. Then as a callback, we provide the fetch more data, or the second API call. And to that one, we are passing display data as a callback that is going to be executed in the end. So when I run this, we are receiving the data from API 1, then receiving data from API 2, and then displaying all data. So everything works as expected. And this is how it would look in real life. And when we take a closer examination of this, it's not too cluttered, it's not too nested. So one might say callbacks can be used even though they might not be perfect, which is exactly what I was saying, but still we have better ways to address this. In conclusion, callbacks are an essential feature in JavaScript, and you need to be aware of them and be able to use them in your day-to-day life. But in reality, in most cases, we're going away from them to some more advanced and more capable methods. So you should definitely master callbacks, have them in your skill belt, and be able to use them whenever you have to. And have in mind, you do not want to end up in callback hell. Of course, if you found this video useful and are looking forward to future videos dedicated to async functionalities of JavaScript, I would like to kindly invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and yeah, until the next video, thank you for watching, have an amazing day, and happy coding!